Smart Muses. Welcome to Smart Muses, where we muse upon what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. Today we're talking about something that makes me very happy and frequently ticks me off, especially when I roll a 1. And it is everything Dungeons and Dragons and other d20 role-playing games. And we are joined, I'm so happy today, we are joined here at Miss Smart Muses by Jade Shadow, Mara Jade.
Hello, yes, I'm her partner in crime and normally the recipient of her one rolls, pretty much.
I know, I am the queen of friendly fire.
I have been shot with an arrow and then actually shot with a gun.
Yeah, I shot her with a gun last Sunday. Yeah, right through the shoulder. I'm so awesome. I even got a critical hit on myself. So I have just
That's the first time I've ever seen that actually happen.
Yes. So I am the queen of disaster. And of course, you can find Mara on her channel, Jade Shadow. And I believe tonight you are having my talk.
Well, it's sort of like a special edition Cringe Factory because Steph and I are talking about the Barbie movie. So yeah.
All right. So everyone,
I get to be talking about that tonight. Yay!
Yay! Well, everyone be sure.
That's how excited as I am about that.
Well, hey, it's definitely a topic we're talking about, and you and Stephanie are always funny, and it'll be a good time. So everyone, if you haven't already subbed to her or go ahead and put your reminder on for that stream. Go ahead and do so. And all the way from the future, and a more northern latitude than ours, it is the one, the only, the Viking himself, Stig.
Hello.
Hi.
How do you do, both of you?
Pretty good.
Relatively good. How's the future?
Gray today. In Norway, anyway. And the planet's still around, so.
Okay, that's good. So we do have a future. Whether that's a good thing or not is...
Hatred level is at a healthy 87%. So I'm having a splendid day.
I was going to say that's really good for you. Excellent.
Yeah.
Superb. Well, also from the future, we have Archer Collins. Hello. Riker 1776. Oh, good. I'm glad to make it. Well, glad that you are here. I won't be chatting random things because my second monitor quit. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope it gets better. Hello, it is Gravy D. Great to see you here. Hello, Stig, Teresa, and Mara. Can't wait for the Dungeons and Drag Queens. Well, I'm not so sure about that.
He just gave me an idea now.
Oh, no.
Oh,
God.
No. I know what's going to happen, too.
Yeah.
Okay. Archer Collins, I think the only D20 D&D I've played is some of the computer games. I do play Castles and Crusades, however. Excellent. Oh,
yeah,
Tommy.
There's over 50 D&D games, I think, for the PC and stuff.
No, well, excellent. Tommy is here. Hello, Tommy. Gravy D says, I roll the dice anytime I talk to Mara. The dice always chooses violence for some reason. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Well, he and Trey always seem to wake up and choose violence.
Oh, no. Well, why not, I guess. I use my dice to help me with my chores and choose the coffee I'm going to be drinking. So Tommy says you got to load the dice to not roll ones. Well, apparently I have failed at that, and I hate my honesty because I cannot lie, and certainly not going to lie about Dungeons and Dragons. So, yeah.
There's
Oh, hello, Trina.
You're very much like Stig at times because, like, whenever when we were playing like Conan D&D, whenever I'd say like, what is my pet? Does my pet make a noise? There's always that long pause after he rolls, and that tells me that it goes my way.
Yeah, the fuckers had me make a noise for the stupid obese cat thing.
Well, you're the one who put it in the story that the retards overfed my pet. So guess what?
I rolled for it.
Well, I'm saying that was on you, regardless of the roll, pretty much. It was on you, pretty much. So, yeah, I'm going to make you suffer.
Well, basically, it was called a whistle puppy. So I figured if an animal is known to whistle and it's gone obese, it wouldn't be able to whistle, right?
Well, you got to make the sound now for the chat.
I was going to say, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Well, it was something, what was it? It was like...
So like whenever I would like pet my pet, like my pet, he's like just like and does like Reaper Cheap say anything, and like so it, like Stig would roll, and there'd always be this pause.
Because he would be like, "Damn it!"
Yeah, because it landed on it makes a sound or some shit.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
There's
honest.
a story
I was,
behind that, Gravy. There's a story behind that.
I was hoping that animal would croak somehow.
Oh no!
I wasn't trying to make it happen though, but there was that vampire attack thing
Yeah.
where it might have happened, and I was like rolling to see who he attacked, and I was like, "Come on, Ribici, come on."
Yeah, Steve was bitter because he had it in his head that Mara was supposed to name the whistle puppy Clements, and
Well, that always gets me. It's like this animal would come up to me with a name tag, like "Hello, my name is Clements." Pretty much, like he didn't. Like, don't you think like that animal looks like a Clements? I'm like, no, it doesn't.
yeah, and then I decided to suck up to the DM, and when I got my cat, I named my cat Clemens. So yeah. It's a second pope. Wait, no, Peter.
They
Linus
move all
played
kinds
as
of
Clement
shit into their
fourth.
homes. They collect people and animals.
Yeah,
What do you think you do with a home?
you collect people and animals. What you've been doing it wrong all these
D&D
years.
get weapons.
Yeah,
And chainmail bikinis.
Well,
I mean, we went day dress shopping at one point, so we at least collected that stuff.
yeah, precisely. And you see, and this brings us to a good question about D&D and the whole DMs, because the kind of game that Stig has facilitated for us over the last 3 years, it's been a little bit female oriented. So there has been a lot more shopping and aesthetics.
Well, we had a male player too, but he was more feminine than the women, so he quit.
No, we're not going there.
I'm joking.
We're gonna be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we all had our little bit of quirks that we've done. And oh dear, Tommy says Stig was trying to roll a 20 for a seagull attack. Well, I think Stig wants someone to have a critical hit.
Oh,
on a
I've had
seagull.
critical hits on seagulls.
In real life.
Oh yeah.
Oh dear.
Long time ago though.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, let's get into a little bit of what even is D&D, because it seems like everyone's talking about it, everyone's playing it, and the whole Stranger Things show got people interested. I'm going to first
also Stranger Things got it wrong, because they are playing I believe second edition or first edition of D&D, and one of the kids said she was playing a rogue. Well,
Yeah,
there's no rogues.
One of the main characters. Yeah, her character was a rogue.
Yeah, it was called Thief back then. The rogue didn't happen until third edition, which was in the late 90s.
So,
well,
I like that didn't register on me when I was watching that season.
Well, those are the kind of things that if you've been playing D&D your whole life, you probably would know. But I don't know, Steve, did you want to give us a bit of a background of how D&D got started, what was going on back in the 70s?
Basically, it was based on the old medieval war games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we had, miniature soldiers and stuff like that. But eventually, they decided, hey, what if you actually play an individual soldier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they set it in a fantasy genre, which pretty much ripped off all kinds of fantasy authors at the time, because this was early days of fantasy in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just starting to kick off. The Silmarillion, I think, was right around the corner, or maybe it had come out. So they had hobbits early on, but they had to change the name to halflings because of copyright.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and so they got together and they had this game, and Dungeons and Dragons wasn't the only game with dice, right? Right. This.
No, there's been a hell of a lot of role playing games, but Dungeons and Dragons it's the mainstream one. The the Conan game is technically not Dungeons and Dragons. It's just uses the same d20 system, you know.
Yes.
But and same with Call of Cthulhu. But yeah, basically, if you play D&D, you definitely need a DM that knows the rules
Mm-hmm.
at least 75% well, you know. And another thing that I think is important is if the DM knows the world that the game is set in, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing Conan, you should know a bit about the Conan world, right? Or if you're playing D&D, you have plenty of D&D worlds that you can use for your D&D game. You have the most popular one being the Forgotten Realms,
Mm-hmm.
which also has like 40 video games um, made for that one. Dragonlance was another one. Mystara was one. Dark Sun, Ravenloft, which is a horror D&D setting, and some of them are even connected. So
Okay.
you can actually travel from the Forgotten Realms to Ravenloft. You won't get back, but yeah.
Okay. So, Mara, how did you get started with D&D?
So I actually kind of got started with D&D because there was a guy I'd been dating in high school, or like it was basically like like basically a ex-boyfriend pretty much from high school, and I found out when like we were going to college because we were going to two colleges close to get like to each other, that he was into D&D, and one of the days he invited me to come like basically watch one of the sessions, and like pretty much from that I was kind of hooked. It ended up being rather difficult for me finding a group to play D&D with, because like the people that he played with weren't exactly, I didn't know them that well, and there really wasn't like, there was a shop. It's actually it closed, which is unfortunate, but it was a shop that was like dealt with like basically nerd culture, and they had a lot of D&D stuff when I was in college, so I ended up like buying the books, which I still have. But no one really around that wanted to try playing it. So at least not a lot of people. So it's like one of those where it's like situations where I would have had to have lucked out to be able to play a session. And now my one brother is getting into playing D&D. I'm actually going to be playing a one shot. He's gonna be DMing because it's like his first time DMing for his group. So we're going to do a siblings hangout tomorrow, and he's like, he wants to try one of like the one shots he's created, basically on us siblings to play it tomorrow.
Well, that's a good way to get into DMing as well.
Yeah. So we basically were the test subjects. So if it works out tomorrow, like he knows like if there's anything he has to tweak or whatever for whatever campaign he's created.
Yeah, Archer Collins, I believe, is right. Greyhawk was the original setting for D&D, and the stupid thing is when Wizards of the Coast took over D&D and they made the third edition, the game manuals, the player's handbook and such, are basically for the Greyhawk setting, because all the deities and stuff that you cleric can worship and stuff are from Greyhawk, but they didn't release books for it for 3.5 edition. They just did Forgotten Realms and stuff, so it's like you need to convert a lot of it to make it fit with the Forgotten Realms, which was the one they were supporting.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a fuck up.
Yeah. Well, and that brings us to a good point. We're going to get into a little bit of DMs, and I like what you said, Mara, about your brother practicing, because I've had family members also practice on us, because being a DM it's not an easy thing to do, because the DM's job is to not just have a campaign, not just describe things, but he has to remember, or she has to remember, everything about everyone's characters and their levels, and then also like the enemies that they come across, and they have to make up NPCs.
Basically, if you can compare it to Skyrim. If you're playing Skyrim, you're controlling your character. But if you compare it to D&D, the DM would be playing the Skyrim world for the player.
Yeah.
Everything the player interacts with, the DM has to control somehow. If it's something that is controllable, so you basically have to be the game engine and the. I hate to use the word storyteller, because I don't think a good DM should be a storyteller, because the story is the player's story. It's not the DM's story. You have a lot of DMs going, yeah, I'm a storyteller. I tell great stories in D&D. Well, you're putting the players in the passenger seat if you do that.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, the best DMs is like a football referee. If you don't notice the referee is there, he's probably done a good job, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mara, what you were going to say?
I was going to say my brother, like this is going to be his first time DMing, but he created a half orc character, basically like a tank, and it was kind of funny because he was telling about how his one friend pointed out, like, your armor class is like 16, right? And my brother's like, yeah, like, but when you roll for attack and that all basically adds up to equivalent of your armor class, right? And like my brother's like, yeah. So his friend's like, well, conceivably you could actually fight naked and it would make no difference.
Oh.
So my brother is like, so now whenever like he would like send his half orc into battle, he's like, I can't remember what his character's name is. So he's like, so and so strips off his armor and just runs in.
Oh my gosh. Well, see, those are the funny moments.
Yeah, those are the fun. So it's like he's like, oh yeah. So whenever like they have to roll for initiative and like they're in a fight or a battle, like he has his character stripped down and just running naked.
Well, you guys killed midgets while naked.
Well, we kind of had to. We didn't know where our stuff was.
Yeah, our clothes were stolen from us. Yeah, and we're gonna get into some of those wild stories.
People were like, Stig's a pervert, he strips them. I'm like, no, the midgets were they stripped them because they wanted to eat them.
Yeah, we had midget cannibals.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was one of the more interesting situations that we've gotten in. That was though Conan. So and in the Conan world, it's got to fit with Robert E. Howard's world that he created.
Yeah, I actually tried actively to make it more gritty than I did with the when we played D&D, because that one wasn't too gritty, right?
Yeah,
it was more.
Not really.
It had some fucked up things, but
well, what Nina did to her aunts, what I did with a candle, that shit.
Yeah,
in Conan. Yeah.
Well, it's in Conan, it's basically it's supposed to be all about barbarism, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the civilized countries are even worse. That's kind of the message from Howard is the more civilized we get, the more cruel the world gets.
Yeah, and in Conan D20, the difference with Dungeons and Dragons is magic is always evil. Yeah, magic is always evil in the Conan world, and it can't be used for good. So you're gonna find a lot more diabolical situations.
As soon as I said that, nobody wanted to play as a spellcaster thing because, magic comes from hell in Conan.
Yeah, and even though you don't necessarily, or you aren't necessarily the character that you create. I've told you this, Stig, before that.
I will be right back. I got to handle the thing.
No problem. That I can't separate myself too much from who I am. And so trying to play somebody that would be like channeling the powers of hell, it's like, no, that's just, not something that I would have fun with. And that's the other thing, is that at the end of the day, you're supposed to have fun with it. And if it's not fun, then why are you doing it? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is something I also try to do when I'm a DM.
Mm-hmm.
I try to design as much as I can around the player's choice of race and class and what have you, and so I rarely have any kind of end game planned.
Mm-hmm.
It just gets there based on the player's choices, and sometimes bits will be left open when you do like a quest or something.
Yeah.
Or you miss something, or it's just I'll just branch out from that, and then
yeah.
and
We'll get into those in a little bit about art in jokes and how certain things become a trope or recurring theme with our characters that's really not intended. It's just something spontaneous that happens. Archer Collins makes a good point. The more civilized the society, the more free time they have for being nasty.
Yeah.
Oh yes, doesn't that describe his world and our world?
Robert E. Howard wanted basically the world to go back to the savage times.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a case for it. To be honest, he certainly did.
He saw what was happening with the modern world.
Yep.
I was thinking that now might be a good time to explain the differences between the editions, because when they first started Dungeons and Dragons, the people that did it, and actually they sold, what Forbidden Realms was something that was bought by the company that published Dungeons and Dragons.
It was bought by the Forgotten Realms was created by Ed Greenwood, a Canadian fellow, well liked. He's definitely one of the good guys. It's kind of like, I'm probably going to remember this wrong, but it's an alternative version of our medieval world. Because if you look at the Forgotten Realms, you can tell that it's these islands over there are supposed to be England, and you have the little Elven Valinor ish island that's kind of Atlantis ish,
Yeah.
But But I saw Archer Collins mention that Kryn was the first world they acquired, which I think is true. I think it was Hickman and Weiss created it, and then they sold it to TSR and wrote novels set in it.
Yeah.
So that's how Dragonlance happened, which is, in my opinion, more of one of the it's probably the D&D setting that has the best books, because the Dragonlance books are just so fun.
Yeah. And that was another thing that they did, was they tied it in with the book, so it was great cross marketing.
And they had a timeline, a timeline, a history of the Forgotten Realms or Kryn or what have you, and the events in the novels would get added to the timeline, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So it worked like the Star Wars expanded universe, and the people who made the Star Wars expanded universe were people who had done this before for D&D worlds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you'll see writers like R.A. Salvatore, Elaine Cunningham, Troy Denning. So we owe a debt maybe in many ways to Dungeons and Dragons and those Forgotten Realms books and the Dragonlance books. because of that. And if you haven't read them, they are fantastic. They're just good entertainment because we all know that entertainment sucks right now. So go ahead
And
read these.
Dragonlance right now is the longest running fantasy series
That's
because
correct.
they started making new books again, which is they're doing it to retcon the whole fucking thing, but it's still part of the franchise. So it's been going since the mid '80s. And
Yeah.
R.A. Salvatore's Dritz books, Dritz the Dark Elf.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a new book coming out in a month.
Yep.
And that one's been going since '88 or '89.
Yeah.
So the guy's been writing about the same character for that long.
Yeah.
And pretty much a book per year, roundabout.
Yeah. It's an amazing output. Mar, have you read any of those books?
So when I was a kid, I tried reading a couple. It was like that was like when I was primarily focused on reading Tolkien and when I was still into Star Wars. So I was like more reading those books than other fantasy series at that point.
Yeah, that's the way I am too.
I think you'd love Dritz tomorrow. The guy has a pet panther.
Yeah, it's amazing. And of course, I'm the newbie in all this. I won't even pretend to know too much about it. I just started when Stig started this group a few years ago, and so I'm like Mara. I was into Star Wars and Tolkien, and now I'm going backwards and just discovering this parallel stuff that was
I'm
going on.
At some point, I'm like, I'm trying like getting a little bit into Warhammer. Like that lore is a deep dive pretty much. So I'm not I've only scratched the surface pretty much, but it's like one of the few fantasy franchises that has like not been tainted yet with identity politics. So,
yeah,
knock on wood.
Yeah,
I was thinking of getting into Warhammer, but then I saw how many books there were, and I'm like, I don't have time.
There's a lot. I've basically just been trying to find videos. Because like you can find videos on YouTube where people break down the lore, like not exactly the books, but at least the lore, so you can start playing catch up. Like, oh, that's what happened here, or that's what happened there, things like that. So,
I think a good way to go about things maybe is to maybe read the first Dritz trilogy and the first Dragonlance, stuff like that, just to be familiar with it, and then you'll see for yourself what you like or not.
Yeah, that's the way to go. And then that's a question I wanted us to dive into a little bit. It's like there was the first edition, and then the second edition, and I believe the second edition was the one that most people played who were playing in the 80s.
Yeah, it was called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, really.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, when I came in, it would have been around the time of the third edition.
Yeah. The third one was kind of buggy, so they did 3.5. 3.5 is basically, a patch to fix third edition. But once fourth happened, they fucked everything up. And 5 is just a dumbed down mess.
Yeah.
So D&D pretty much, in my opinion, ended with 3.5. After that, hell, back in the day, they used to publish about 20 D&D novels a year. Now there's nothing. R.A. Salvatore, who's been a New York bestseller many times with his Dritz books, he had to lease his character from Wizards of the Coast to write, the newest trilogy.
Yeah. And I wouldn't go into that because we've talked a little bit about the 5th edition and some of the things that Wizard of the Coast did. If I were to ask Mark, because I'm asked this all the time, well, what is so wrong with the 5th edition? Like, why do people have a problem with it?
Well, one of, not the only reason, but one of the big reasons that people have a problem with it is they essentially dumbed everything down. Like, with character creation, traits, feats and things like that. It's almost like they're holding the player's hands throughout campaigns, the settings, things like that. So versus editions up through 3.5 where it's pretty much, I don't want to necessarily say they throw players into the deep end, but they didn't hold our hands either. It's like, okay, here's the books, you figure it out essentially. Nowadays, it's like, okay, we're going to baby step you through every process. And then like another big thing is it's being permeated with identity politics in one way or another. Basically, handicap accessible dungeons. Like, who the fuck cares? Like, you're in a dungeon, pretty much. Like, who cares if they're handicap accessible?
Yeah,
pretty much.
And there's spells in the game that can fix a handicap permanently. And if someone's handicapped in real life, why the fuck would they play as a handicapped character?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, well, I know they're you can't say half when you're talking about races. Like if you have like say a half elf character, like they're doing away with that because it's degrading or some stupid bullshit reason that they gave. Plus, from what I could tell reading into it, is that if you have like a half character, that character would only have skills, traits, and feats from one or the other side, pretty much. So what would be the point of having a half elf when people are going to say, oh, I'm a half elf character, but I'm going to have every feature or feat or whatever from the elf side because that's better than the human side. Then they're pretty much gearing the players towards creating pure race characters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Which is ridiculous because, I mean, it's always been a part of fantasy. From Elrond, they watch it. They'll try to erase Elrond the half elven. It's just...
Yeah, I brought that up. Guess what Elrond's last name is?
Yeah,
his lineage is literally in his last name.
Yeah.
You know what's kind of weird though? They keep adding really bad artwork now, where the women are butt ugly and basically wearing burqas, right? But I play D&D with a lot of women. Usually they play as elves because they want to be pretty, pretty and sexy or whatever. So who the fuck are they trying to cater to?
I don't know. When I play the one-shot D&D session with my siblings tomorrow, I'm going to kind of replay an elf cleric because my brother suggested that I stick with that class only because I've played it before and I'm used to it. Yeah. But I generally pick the elven race because I like the traits and feats associated with that.
Yeah, elves are. I swear by the dwarves, though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
My 4'11" sister is going to be playing the fighter.
Oh, fun. Yeah. But I think that brings up the point that you can actually be whatever the heck you want to be in Dungeons and Dragons or any game.
You can now, but back in the older editions, there were race and class restrictions. Only humans could be paladins. And
I understand those restrictions, but I guess what I'm trying to say is if you want to play an ugly ass person, you can play an ugly ass person. You can play a fat person. You can
if your charisma is low, right? You're not gonna be super pretty.
Yeah. So I'm just saying is that when they say that they're adding it to it, but we're always kind of in charge of the kind of our characters in that.
Which is weird because if they're trying to force that stuff into the rules, and that they're actually retroactively changing older modules and stuff as well to fit with the for the modern player, right? So they're going back and fucking up the stuff that came before as well.
Yeah, so if you can buy up the old editions, like find them in thrift stores, I have been finding them, or grab them up on eBay. Because they will be changed.
I mean, the character sheet, it says gender on it. Just put they, them, or something there. Then it's always been there. You can put whatever you want to.
Yeah, it's like whenever we would do our Cringe Factory streams, like especially the ones where we talked about Wizards of the Coast, or if I would say talk about the Sims game. Pretty much, like it's they're adding stuff there for a game that's always been pretty much player controlled in
Yeah.
terms of character creation. Like you are like, whether it's playing D&D or Sims, you designate everything about the character. Like, the Sims aren't going to reach through the monitor and tell you, I want to be this, I want to work here, or I want to eat this, or they're not going to tell you what. Like, you are playing as that character, so it's always been player focused.
Well, this is what I've always tried to do when I DM as well. I'll let the players play whatever they want, right? But they'll have to take the penalties too,
Mm-hmm.
because what I did with the Conan game, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were basically well liked when you were in the Stygia part of the game,
Mm-hmm.
because you were Stygian. But when you were in the north, or people hated Stygians
Mm-hmm.
for a good reason, because they invade shit and do heinous magic.
Yeah.
So you had to. I sure as hell implemented the not necessarily racism, but more like hatred
Mm-hmm.
for for a country, and the same
Well,
with
Stygia hated everyone else too, so it kind of like evened out.
yeah, and with when you were in the media, which was where Teresa was from, she had very few problems, but when she got to Stygia, or when he went north, then she was not as popular,
No.
right? So
No.
I feel stuff like that should be there, because
Mm-hmm.
it adds to the game world.
Yeah.
Because if every damn country is accepting of everyone, it sure as hell isn't a medieval society.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
there's
That
no-
and the fact that in the Conan D&D, you could buy slaves, and now that's a concept that's Wizard of the Coast is doing away with, because
Oh, Paizo as well.
Yeah.
Pathfinder. They
yeah.
have retroactively removed all references to slavery
Mm-hmm.
through the whole lore of the Pathfinder universe. Retroactively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just because there is slavery, that doesn't mean that you are endorsing it. That's just part of the world that it is.
Yeah.
And we have to have something to have a conflict about.
And basically our characters started out as slaves, so basically as the story progresses, that element comes into play whenever we would see people, like other people in that situation. I think I think it was like a time when I couldn't play, but it was like Nina or someone basically freed some people who were enslaved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that I think that happened a couple of times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so basically, it plays into our characters in a kind of a relatively positive way, because we would, if we saw others in that circumstance, we would try to free them as much as possible.
Yeah, and if you guys had decided to free the slaves and then sell them,
Mm-hmm.
I would have allowed it, because it's possible to do that in that world, right?
Yeah, we didn't go that route, basically because of, like I said, like how our characters started essentially. But at the same time, it's like, just because we do it in a game does not mean we're going to advocate for it in real life.
Precisely.
Exactly. It's the character you're playing is not you.
No.
Yeah. Thank goodness, because I think we murdered a lot of people.
Oh,
Quite
hell.
often over petty reasons, to be honest.
Well, hell,
He had it
what I
coming.
did to that one lady Paltrovia with the candle. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's. I
Yeah.
full on admit it was beyond petty, but I don't fucking care.
Yeah, well, yeah, and maybe this is a good time for us to go into some of their stories, because yes, there was Lady Paltrovia, and
Mhm.
The
based
only
on
reason I did that one,
Yeah.
was because Mara was threatening me with Paltrow candles.
I still
So I was
do.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
And it
Yeah.
became an ongoing joke, and that's what's fun, is that when you play for a long time, like there's certain things that become in jokes, and because of that, Stig wrote it into the character that there's this Lady Paltrovia who had this candle.
Basically, it was kind of like a mystery quest,
Yeah.
because I think I was looking at the alchemy stuff, and there was like love potions
Yeah.
that some of the Stygian priestesses used, actually, to basically, it was basically a sex drug. So I was like, okay, so what would happen if someone accidentally drank it or whatever? So basically, what had happened was the servant lady had accidentally put it in Lady Paltrovia's porridge, and well, she wasn't married, and then I figured it wouldn't kick in right away, So it
Mhm.
kicked in at night, and all she had was a candle, right?
Yeah.
And y'all can use your imagination because I try to keep this really. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's a thing. Often, well, not often. Well, actually, often I get accused of coming up with things that are not correct to do, and but it's because I overthink because I want things to make sense.
yeah,
Mhm.
So it actually did make sense.
it did. And then it turned out that they killed people, and including the
Yeah,
stable boy.
yeah, like the servant girl was in love with the stable boy, and she wanted to use the love potion on him, but it accidentally somehow got into Lady Paltrovia's porridge. And when we tried to essentially, because we didn't want, because we discovered that was the situation, but we didn't want the servant girl to be punished or anything like that. So we tried getting the butler in on it to basically say, like, it was supposed to be for him, or like it was supposed to be used on him, but accidentally got in the porridge, and he uh, uh betrayed us to Lady Paltrovia. So we basically were told to fuck off without any payment. And then that's not long after that, Teresa, you and our characters joined the Thieves Guild,
Yeah.
and lo and behold, our first mission essentially was basically Lady Paltrovia's house. Rob that.
No, 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 no. You guys did that by yourself because you wanted revenge.
No, that's like we had to go back. No, it's part of the Thieves Guild because we had to go back and give them half.
Yeah, you had to do that anyway.
I know, but it was like we didn't it was one of those kill two birds with one stone essentially, where it's like
I
it was
believe
part of
it
the Thieves
was
Guild, but it was revenge for us.
And how was
because we were
that
that
revenge
petty.
taken, pray tell?
Yes, well, we killed all the guards out front, all right, because we didn't want them alerting Lady Paltrovia. We also discovered that she had the stable boy and servant girl hung, so we found their bodies hanging in the courtyard, which is basically what spurred us to go, okay, fuck everyone in the house, pretty much. So we killed all
Yeah.
the guards.
Yeah, because I was really mad about the stable boy because you just don't kill stable boys.
Yes, but just in general, the fact that they were innocent and this
Yeah.
bitch just hung them. So we got inside, found where the butler was sleeping, and I think it was you, Teresa. Was it you
I
who
killed him.
Yeah, you killed him.
Yeah.
In his bed, basically, while he was sleeping, and then we made our way up to Lady Paltrovia's room because we knew where it was, having been in the house before. But I didn't want to kill her right away. Basically, I think I was the one who slapped her awake.
Yeah, you slapped her awake, and then you basically made her aware that you were going to kill her or something.
Yeah.
And then you
I wanted her aware that this was like basically her last night on this planet.
Yeah, I think you started punching her with the fighting gauntlets while Teresa was stabbing her.
Yeah, kind of. I believe that's how it went. And then when she was dead, I took her candle and shoved it up, where.
Yeah.
As like a final insult, pretty much.
Yeah. But
Whenever her body was found, that's the position she'd be found in.
Yeah, but I'm the messed up one.
I didn't say you were the only messed up one, but you are fucked in the head.
Yeah, it was. Well, she had it coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how the quest started.
Oh dear. Oh yeah. So that was but that was personal. She was a bad person.
Yeah.
You know what though? Whenever you see videos, D&D for beginners or stuff like that, they always say that it's very important to have a good DM and blah blah blah. I think that's not true. It helps, but it's vital that you have a good group of players and DM that
Mhm.
get along, you know, and that are on this, the same page. Because if you have a group of 4 players and one of them just shows up just to, casually kill time and is not really invested in anything and will just do random things just for spur of the moment fun, then that'll ruin the game.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've heard of people that
So
do that.
yeah, so the um,
The chemistry.
having good invested players, I think, is step one.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, whatever the DM comes up with is kind of, it'll just fizzle out anyway.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
and I was gonna say, and then another thing that became a bit of a running joke, and I think it's gone across all three of our games, is we were having tea somewhere, and Stig randomly called it Duke Gray instead of Earl Grey. He tried to make it a, it within
Yeah,
the
because
world.
someone had to know what the fucking tea was called.
I know.
That, yeah, that's not me.
Well, yeah, we always want to
For
know
once
how
it
good the
wasn't
food
me.
is.
For once it wasn't me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we were just nosy. I forget who it was. It probably was
Yeah.
me. But we always want to know, what are we eating? What does it taste like?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, yeah, like whenever he's like, it's like when like, oh, so and so has made breakfast for you, like Tybalt or something like that in the Conan world. We're like, oh, like what did he make? How was it? So Steve would always have to roll
Yeah.
to see
Yeah,
if we got sick or not.
yeah, and like, yeah, he's made oatmeal, and they go, "How does it taste? Uh, how does oatmeal usually taste, madam?
Yeah.
Please
Well,
describe taste for us."
it's more like like are we going to get sick or not? Because I remember like sometimes you've rolled where it's like Teresa got food poisoning
Yeah.
or something
Yeah,
like that,
rolling
or she
one.
got sick. Yeah,
Yeah. It was, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I stick to the rolls.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the reason why we ask. It's just like
Yeah.
our it's just as part of the story. But that also to torture you because we want to make you think on your feet.
Well, and also, I'm
Yeah,
just genuinely curious.
that's actually the stuff you really have to do when you're a DM. You're constantly a calculator, right?
Mhm.
You have to do calculations in your head constantly, and also think on your feet, because you have to keep in mind uh, the state of mind of the character that they're talking to,
Mhm.
what that character knows, what the character doesn't know, and is the character inclined to believe the players or not, or is he trying to trick
Yeah,
them?
that's another thing we
All
didn't talk
kinds of
about, the concept of metagaming that we try to avoid. And what
yeah,
I don't think people realize what
metagaming.
it is.
Yeah, metagaming is basically if you think outside the game,
Mhm.
or rather outside of what your character knows,
Yeah.
and act on it.
So whenever so I don't want to say to avoid metagaming, but whenever we want to bring up something outside the character, like if for anyone who wants to begin playing D&D, you always start with out of character.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it'll like come across as your character talking, basically thinking this, talking this. So you always start with like out of character, and you ask your question, so that way the DM knows it's basically you asking the question and not you speaking through your character to ask the question
yeah,
or say something.
Yeah.
So
And that's something that sometimes I just have to mute myself because I can't help but start to comment. So I just mute myself. So I just
yeah, like even
yeah,
even we
and
had to avoid like oh remember like your character did this. Well, like how do you know your character wasn't there? Oh shit.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
or if Teresa's breaking into a house alone, and the other characters are outside, and Teresa's finding a chest or something, and then Mara might go, "Oh, remember to check for traps." That's metagaming.
Yeah.
well, technically, yeah, but you could say it's like that's still within game for the character because like she would know that
Yeah,
Teresa
but
is the thief.
if she
So,
forgets it, the character forgets it.
yeah, well,
You know.
Yeah, unless we're next to each other. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Well, if I'm not with her, yeah, but if I'm with her, I'm like, check for traps.
Yeah, and
if you're with her, that's completely fine.
Yeah,
if I'm with
the
her, but like
building,
if I'm outside, I basically have to stay silent. So like I would be like Teresa, I would mute my mic so that way like you don't hear anything.
I usually stomp that out pretty harshly too. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Teresa's doing this, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I have to,
and
I'm not doing it to be rude.
Yeah. Well, and
I
it
just
is
do it anyway. But
yeah, and when you're playing, like when we play, we're playing exactly like this as you see us. We're not all sitting around a table where we can take cues, visual cues. We don't have the things in front of us, so we are completely reliable on our voices. So yeah, it'll have to get blunt sometimes, and we're all grown-ups.
and here's the thing that's I think players forget. If you're the DM and you're trying to convey what's happening and blah blah blah, if 3 people are talking while I'm explaining it, it's stressful as fuck. It's like counting or something while someone lists up a bunch of numbers.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen too often. But it happens more if you have the more players you have, the greater the chance of that. But and another thing is the rules are basically guidelines. I don't always follow the rules if common sense makes more sense in a situation.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of stuff you need to factor in as well, because if you're trying to sneak up on someone, right? If it's dark, you get a bonus to it. But if you're doing it in broad daylight in a desert, it's more tricky. And let's say if you're walking on hard snow and trying to sneak up on someone, right? We'll make the crunchy sound.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of little things like that I try to pay attention to as well. And I think, personally, I think it's worth it. I don't know if the players think that, but do you think it's more immersive when I do that?
Yeah, well, it makes sense. Basically, because you're factoring in the environment along with the roles. So,
because more often than not, it actually benefits. But it's
because like you remember the one instance where Teresa and I basically. Now this was a pure revenge mission on our parts, where we killed those 2 women. We had to take into account the environment because we're sneaking over a wall, trying to sneak over a wall. And my character had no climb skills whatsoever.
Yeah, you were pawing up the wall for a while before you got
Yeah. and I had really high skills. So I'm like a ninja woman, just blithely landing like a cat.
Yeah, so we had basically, if there's bushes around, if there's anything that could make a noise, we'd have to take that into account with the rolls, so it makes sense when you factor all that in, because you land in bushes, it's going to make a noise.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
and this actually had to become something where I have to say, I'm saying this inside my head, because at first because I like to talk out loud, and then it was someone heard me and I was like, wait, I didn't say that out loud. And it's like, well, yes, you did. And I'm like, so now I say inside my head, I'm saying this. I think that was when the retardandos, because I made a bit of a mistake. No, I think I just made a mistake with them.
No, you basically said, my 2 friends are over there.
Yeah, actually, and that's when I became a retardando.
And they were hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been known to be a little bit retardando in the game. I will admit it. I do my best. I'm a visual learner, and it's very hard for me to stick on oral cues.
Well, did you?
But that's that actually. No offense to Nina, but that pales into comparison to whenever we were playing the regular D&D campaign, and our group was split up, and you and I are trying to be as secretive as possible in this one location, and Nina's character is it's like, my friend is a cleric and she does this, blah 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 blah. She's letting all this information out.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
basically,
didn't know.
what happened was they split up, so I had to like run 2 games at the same time
Hmm.
because Mora and Teresa went looking for something, and then Alora and Nina or something couldn't play, so I had them team up and go look for Teresa and Mora. And Teresa and Mora had basically been lying their asses off, trying to infiltrate. It was basically a village on an island ruled by a cult.
Yeah, I need an infinity gravy. Like we're
Yeah,
basically we're trying to be as low profile as possible. Like I hid everything on my person that could give me away as a cleric.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then when Nina and Alora played, Nina basically went from store to store. Have you seen my friends? And then she described them and said, one of them is an elf. She's a cleric of a good god.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
She's gonna root out evil, and all the cult members were the ones she was talking to. So they're like, and then the next time Teresa and Mora were playing, and they were like trying to bluff one of the main villains, like, yeah, we want to join your cult or something, and she was just going,
yeah.
Nina had spilled the guts the night before or something. So
Yeah.
I think you got tricked into like a gas trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got captured.
Yeah.
But that's realistic because, to be fair, we weren't knowing what the other's strategy was, and we don't talk out of game. So we
No,
kept it in game.
I put down strict rules about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
don't say anything.
So that's what makes it kind of fun. I mean, and trust me, that was just one thing. I did a lot of really stupid things too. I mean, but you don't think about it because that's a realistic part of the world, is that there's so many moving parts.
Yeah.
But that was funny. Yeah. So, and then of course, Mara and I didn't know why they weren't believing us and how we ended up trapped.
Yeah. Mara was like, I rolled a fucking 20 on my bluff.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and I'm like, and I
actually rolled high, and I'm like, how am I not tricking them?
Yeah,
and I couldn't say.
Yeah, hi Luffy. Yeah, so that was fun, and that brings me to mind again how petty my character was, because we were kind of like the Seinfeld characters. I felt in the D&D, we were all very petty, very shallow people, and because of the Duke Gray that I was obsessed with, I started becoming obsessed with it everywhere we went. And then we were supposed to F up some guy, some gnome or something, and we were just supposed to beat him up, but Nina accidentally did a spell that killed him.
Oh, that wasn't by accident.
Well, no, I mean, but she didn't know that it was going to be that destructive. And it was basically like he got hit with a missile and obliterated, and everyone's like going, oh my gosh. But I paused and was like, but he's got all this Duke Gray. So I grabbed
helping herself to all the Duke Gray, and we're trying to like get out as fast as possible because we just committed first-degree murder.
Yeah, right. And the parent, the kid was upstairs.
She used the magic missile spell, which fired, I think it was 4 at the time, 4 missiles at it. So she peppered him.
They had like low hit points to begin with.
It was kind of like the Uzi of spells. So she peppered him down, and then Teresa grabbed the tea for some reason, and they fucked off.
Yeah. But everyone's like, forget the tea. And I'm like, damn it, there's a whole bunch of Duke Gray.
And I was like, shit, I have 2 full pages written for this quest. And it ended with, let's go in and fuck him up. And then they killed him and ran off with the tea. And I was like, this map, this cool dungeon I made, it's never going to get used. Which is fine. I never mind that.
Yeah.
But it's one thing, though, if you play with the same people sometimes, for a long time, you learn how they think.
Mm-hmm. So
if I have a quest made, it's getting easier to nudge them into taking the quest. Because with Mara, it's ridiculously easy. I just have to have some character wrong her in some way. Then she's off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that reminds me of what happened. We're now playing the Call of Cthulhu rules with an 80s setting, and a cop randomly was searching her for reasons and took her switchblade and
Mhm.
wouldn't give it back.
Well, I maintain like she had taken it like for evidence, I'd be pissed, but I would not have gotten as pissed as I was because she just stole it from me. So yeah, like I was wrong. My character was wronged in that regard.
Like police officers don't behave like that.
Nope.
I'm like,
well,
have you seen 80s movies?
yeah. So
Yeah. Well,
but it's like at the same time, it's like like even if the cop had lied at that point, I wouldn't have known that she was lying about confiscating for evidence. I would have found out later, but I would have been like, oh fuck this, okay fine, sort of situation. I would have been frustrated because it was at that point I was like literally nursing a bullet wound in my shoulder. I'm getting pinned against Teresa's van and patted down by this female cop who proceeds to grope my ass at some point during the pat down. And
you're
just
shot in the
steals from me.
shoulder because I shot you in the shoulder.
Yeah, steals from me. So like after being attacked by an undead raccoon. So at that point, I was not in the mood.
It's like you didn't want your switchblade gone. And then there was this poor lady at the store called the Day Dress, which is a throwback to the Conan game. She was just freaking out because she was seeing this because we were also fighting this undead raccoon.
Well, she's hearing gunshots going off because after I got shot, I got out of the van to fire my Beretta. You were able to finally get out of the van to shoot your Magnum.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're shooting into the van. It looks like we're shooting each other.
Yeah, but we were shooting this rabid raccoon, and then she was so freaked out. I guess Stig was rolling for it.
She never saw the raccoon.
No, I'm saying it's like that's what she's seeing. She didn't see the raccoon, but she just sees us like firing into the van. Looks like we're firing at each other or something. Yeah. And then I made her piss herself because I came in all pissed off
with a bullet wound.
Yes, with a bullet wound, and I'm pissed off. So I'm like, call the fucking cops.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Day Dress, that was a joke because we were going in the Conan game. We were going to a dinner party. No, it wasn't a dinner party. Sorry, I just wanted some clothes, and we were at the dress store.
Oh, that's where we taught Stig the difference between a day and an evening dress.
Yes, exactly. Because I said, okay, I'm looking something for the afternoon. It's going to be like this. It's going to be like that. And then Stig goes, how about a dress? And we just laughed so hard.
It was a dress store, and you were like, what do you have? I'm like, a dress.
Yeah, but you said it like stressed out, like how Teresa said it. That's what made us die laughing.
Yeah. And it's like a dress. And I'm like, but I just described to you a day dress. And he's like, a day dress? What's a day dress?
Yeah.
To be fair, though, if a guy doesn't know what a day dress is, it's not really a loss.
No, but it's just funny. You're like, a dress?
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the biggest laugh we got to. Oh gosh, they're siding with
at
you.
At the same time, it's like, what kind? And then
Yeah.
Yeah. So we explained to him the difference between a day dress and an evening dress. And I sent him all these pictures. And so in this 80s game, this dress store is called the Day Dress. So there's a lot of callbacks to our. Yeah, that was a funny moment. And then there's Tulip, the bard, Mara's favorite.
Oh my god.
Yeah. This guy is a pain.
I was ready to kill him. I was ready to kill him so many times, but I had to stop myself.
Yeah. Yeah, he's this character who I think we really first ran across him because we had to rough him up by the guild.
It's part of it's like we were given like 3 missions from the Thieves Guild through Darius, my boy toy. And one of them was roughing up this bard named Tulip, who became, no pun intended, a thorn in my side the entire rest of the fucking game.
Pray tell, how did you rough him up?
I gave him a boner.
We put
they gave him a sex drug.
Yeah, I gave him a sex drug to give him a boner.
Dropped his pants in an alley.
Yeah.
And had Mara held him from behind, I think, and Teresa punched him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just started beating him up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was
And-
totally the villain, right?
Now, I didn't say he was a villain. He was just a pain in the fucking ass.
Yeah, and then he was
He was
kidnapped,
honest to a fault. He was honest to a fault.
and he was vain, and he
Yeah.
was kind of like Gaston, but a
But
bard.
But
And everyone loved him no matter what we did. And then we had to go and rescue him because he was kidnapped. And then that's when the person came out and hit Mara with a frying pan.
Yeah, he scored a critical hit on me with a fucking frying pan.
Yeah, basically some kind of hillbillies, I guess, had kidnapped him, and they went to rescue him. And Mara
No,
got
we didn't punch him there.
Yeah, Mara got knocked the fuck out
Yeah.
by a frying pan.
Yeah.
And then Teresa shot herself.
That was the thing that I rolled a critical hit, and then I'm like, I'm all by myself, and I kind of suck at this stuff, and I'm like, damn it, and Mara's conked out, so I had to go and rescue Tulip while I shot myself somehow with an arrow, bow and arrow, go and figure, a critical hit. And so that was when it was official. I had done friendly fire on everyone, including me.
Well, Tulip also saved Mara from being. Mara got swallowed by a giant toad, and he actually got the final.
Fucking put us in.
Well, yeah, but he actually got, believe it or not, the final hit on the toad.
That actually ticked me off because, like, you son of a bitch.
Which made so he actually, and he crawled into the toad and pulled her out.
Yeah, but he
So
but it was all
actually
his.
did something heroic in a way. But
After he put us in a
just made him
situation
hate it.
Okay, chat. If there's something attached to the ground, that should tell you it's a trap.
It was a priceless necklace.
Yeah, but when he tried to pick it up and it wouldn't budge, a necklace on the ground that's not budging because it's hooked to something, that's a trap. And he kept pulling.
Yeah, and then the floor went away.
Yes.
And
I got swallowed
and
by
he
a
tricked
toad.
us into it. That was
That
the
was
other
the
thing. He
second
pretended.
time Mara got swallowed by a toad.
Yeah,
Because
pretty much.
the first time, she had even passed out inside the toad because there was no air. And Teresa and Nina, instead of cutting the toad open, they tried to sit the toad up for some reason.
I felt like Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, like I am going to die.
Yeah, and we kept screwed up. And then I rolled a 1, and so my sword went flying into the water. Yeah, I roll lots of 1s.
Yeah, Mara was like, I am going to die.
Yeah,
Literally. I was like, oh my god. And this is part of the reason why we don't stream this shit, Luffy, is because it would sound like a bad acid trip while we're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and there's certain characteristics about our character, certain personality traits about our characters in Call of Cthulhu that I'm like, cannot stream that. No,
and sometimes, not always, every fifth or fourth session, there's something X-rated.
Possibly.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it depends on the situation.
I'm saying, it's and that also to avoid metagaming from the chat because
because if you're playing D&D and you have the chat, which sometimes will decide to be helpful because the chat wants to be interactive. They'll go, oh yeah, remember you have that potion or use that attack or blah blah blah, and it's like the players will see it and then they'll do it and it'll work 100%. Because here's the thing, I'm stepping a little bit away from the main topic, but a lot of YouTubers tend to assume they know more than the chat. They don't. The chat tends to be very knowledgeable. And I think a lot of people who stream forget about that. And with D&D, if people are watching a D&D session, it's usually D&D gamers in the chat, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, no, no. And, I've always acknowledged that the chat is always the best part of my streams. They're awesome and great. And all these comments even here today are great in the questions. And I know that if we were to play it live, a lot of the mistakes I made would not have happened, and that would have messed up the game, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's another thing is the host will have to address the chat quite often, or if they get super chats, it it'll piece up the game and it will stop flowing, and the DM will have to repeat itself, and
yeah,
you know,
it's just a different beast, and
and
it's
you'll
just
get
our
less
choice
done
as well.
Mhm.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So so there is that. Well, and also the other reason why I don't like Tulip is that he tricked us. That was how we even got into that situation with the toad and everything. He claimed that he was dying, and his last wish was that for us to find this. Um, and so we go ahead and we signed the contract, and then he jumps up. I'm feeling better. So that was why we didn't like him, because he tricked us.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was after you guys sex drugged him though, pulled his dick out and beat him up.
So.
Mm.
Well, he deceived us.
Mhm.
So we don't
Well,
like him.
it's not like you guys didn't deceive him first.
Yeah. Well, that was just business.
Not for him.
Well, in any case, and he's very arrogant, and he would write all these songs about us and make it out like we were fat, and I don't know. He was just really annoying.
Well, that was because you guys went to his place to have him make cake for you all the time.
Well, because he made, that
No.
was the thing about him too. He made really, really good strawberry cake, and he had a
Yeah,
lot of
and
good cheeses.
the weird thing is, I was just gonna use him for like one or two quests, but you guys kept going back to him.
No, he would show up at our door.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes, but that was after you guys kind of kept visiting him.
Well, he invited us for strawberry cake.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that was the thing, the strawberry cake, and
as an apology for having tricked you.
yeah, that's true. I guess from a certain point of view. But he kept showing up wherever we went. So he was very annoying, but everyone loved him, and they even made him like a lord or something. And I don't know. Oh gosh, Luffy God is saying he sounds more and more like a victim. No, he's not.
No, he's not.
He was perfectly fine. But Stig actually went out of his way and really wrote some really cool bard songs for him, and he made him rhyme and everything. And after we left the city where Tulip was, we would get letters from him, and he would email them to me, and I would have to read them out to the chat, to the
So that one I did just to piss off Mara and Teresa.
Yeah.
I fully admit it.
Yeah, but it was creative. He baked you a cake. Yes, he did, Gravy D. He gave me the recipe, didn't he?
Gave them a priceless knife they needed for a quest too, and a wagon and some horses, some full-blood horses.
Yeah, so he was around. So we had Tulip, and then of course we had the unintelligent people who kept showing up everywhere, and they weren't even supposed to be who they were, but Steve rolled really low for them because there'd been a thief, a bunch of thieves that had a robbery. That's what it was, and there was a chicken that was
No. They had stolen some chickens and fucked one of them.
Oh, well, I was trying to say it nicer, but yeah, that's it. And so we had to go find them, and Stig at the time was not expecting them to be as stupid, if you will, as they were. But when we showed up, he kept rolling really low. So every time we were like, "Did you like screw this chicken?" And they were like, "No," but it was like really obvious. And then they were just so nonsensical. Oh, we lost Mara there. And so and then eventually it just became this big thing where they followed us everywhere, and they were all these schemes like where they bought all these fishing rods, and they would say things like he offered us 40 gold, but we talked him down to 50 or sorry 30. They were just really stupid, and we would just try to explain to them, listen, you got less money, and they would go, you're just jealous. I mean, it's really hard to describe the comedy.
It's weird. Well, it was hard to do because I was basically rolling because they were going to bluff. But I kept rolling ones and twos.
Yeah.
So I had to come up with bad bluffs.
Yeah.
And what do you do, though? Mara asked like a critical question, and the guy's going to try and bluff, and you roll a one.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even answer. So I just went, no.
Yeah. At one point, through my character, got so frustrated that I actually whipped them through the woods.
Yeah, she chased them with a whip.
I was like, I don't know how many times I told them, stay on this side of the river, do not cross. Pretty much.
She basically chased 3 retards through the forest with a whip.
Yes.
Made them cry and shit. Whipped them through the forest.
And because they were very frustrating, but as Stig said, he was rolling for it. He didn't intend it to be. The chat is totally against us, Mara, by the way. This is ridiculous. No. They don't understand.
No.
Tulip is vindicated.
No, he's not vindicated. No, you guys, if we've been able to stream this and you guys experience what we experienced, he would not be vindicated.
No. But then it became a scheme about they had this fishing rod thing, and then wherever we ended up, there were like people buying fishing rods. It's very hard to describe. And then eventually we had to leave the cats with them, or with one of them, and that's how the cats got so fat. The cat and the whistle puppy, because they just kept feeding them, and we were like, you don't overfeed a cat, you don't overfeed a whistle puppy. And then they were all. But they were hungry. We only fed them when they said they were hungry. And so they got really, really fat. And that was how the whole whistle.
Teresa, you had never played D&D before we started this. Did you find it easy to get into?
Yes, I did. Well, you see, Stig did something really smart. He had us do a practice session. I don't know if you remember that, of the very first one, where we just it was like a prequel to what we were doing.
I did like an intro.
It was like really short, pretty much. But for those who haven't played, pretty much it helped get them the idea of what when you attack bonus, initiative rolls, modifiers.
Yeah, I think as soon as you see the logic in the rules, because there is a logic, then you're pretty much good.
Thank you, Warren Chat. I'm just look, Gravy, we could have killed him multiple times. The fact that he annoyed us that much and we didn't speaks volumes about our patience.
Yeah. Yeah, he was very annoying. Yeah. And Steve gave me some good advice. He had me start off actually as a human, and was a human fighter, was what I was, which he said was the easiest character to play because I didn't have to deal with magic or spells or any of that. And so I think that it made it easier for me to focus on just learning how to play. And then maybe the next time I might play as some other character, maybe with some magic.
Yeah, basically what I do as a house rule is if you played one character, you don't get to play a second version of that character next time. So since Mara has played as a cleric and an elf, she's not playing as an elf or a cleric next time. And Teresa's not playing as a human or a fighter.
Yeah.
And Teresa's not playing as a thief either, because she played one in Conan, and Mara played what's this, essentially a bard.
Well, it's a Temptress class, but equivalent to a bard in D&D, roughly.
Yeah. So those are off limits for the next time. So, which I think is, it's not like I'm trying to force people to play something else, but it's also, you get to play something maybe you didn't think of that actually might be even more fun.
No, I mean that makes complete sense. Orange Hat Review says all this talk is almost interesting me into looking into playing D&D. Well, you should. You should. It's a lot of fun.
Just don't play the new stuff. Go back
Yeah.
in 3.5
Mm-hmm.
or
There is
something.
yeah, I think like I mean, I haven't the classes I haven't played or created any like characters for. I would say would be Druid and Paladin.
A paladin, you have to be goody two shoes to a flaw.
Which I cannot be.
Yeah.
No, you might have fun with it, but
Might
yeah.
have fun with it, but the next character I try would be most likely a druid. At least like that class.
Imagine playing like a halfling druid and you have like a bear or something or a boar as an animal
mhm.
and you're riding it while wielding a lance. So you're like jousting on top of a boar or something.
Oh dear.
See, this is what we deal with, chat.
Mhm.
Well, what's wrong with that? That would be cool.
No, I'm not saying anything's wrong with it, but I'd probably stick with
You know what?
human druid.
You would hate druid because the animals die all the time.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
Oh.
not even kidding. The animals are cannon fodder.
So
Okay. Archer Collins says was 3.5 D20 or the original multi dice.
3.5 was the uses D20.
yeah.
Well, they all do. Yeah. I think. Actually, don't quote me on
What
that.
D20 means is you roll a 20-sided dice and apply it to your skills or attack bonus or whatever.
Yeah.
It's anything plus a D20 whenever you try to achieve something in the game.
So yeah, because I was showing my I have a siblings group chat, group text chat, pretty much. And I showed them like I have like literally 3 sets of dice for D&D. So I'll be bringing all 3 of my sets, which works out for us 3 siblings that are playing tomorrow.
Yeah. I have a ton of them because I kept losing them. So I decided there's a store that I go to that plays a lot of these games and they had some loose dice for sale. So I made sure to get some of those so I have several D20s and was it D8s, D5s and D12s because those are the ones I use the most. And I learned that to get them all ready before the game starts so it doesn't slow down the game.
The game we're playing now though, the Call of Cthulhu horror, that was actually kind of, I did it for Mora really, because I was asking, what do you guys want to play after Conan? Because we were nearing the end. And we talked about the options, and I said, well, I do have Call of Cthulhu, I have the rule book. And I think Mara wanted to set it in the 80s.
I think like Lee and I talked about it, like it would work in the 80s because we'd be able to have like certain references.
Mm-hmm.
Fan service and
fan service versus like in the 1920s where it's like would be interesting, but at the same time it's like you can only do so much with the story.
Yeah, and I had to do world building
because
the rules didn't work for. Well, the rules worked, but the setting didn't work for the 80s. It was basically you could set it in the 2000s or the 20s. That was what so I had to actually make a town with all kinds of people. Who's the mayor? Who's the everywhere. So I actually spent like a week with that one. And you guys haven't seen all of it because I couldn't show you all of it because it's secret. We'll discover it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make I think I made 60 characters to populate the place.
Yeah, it was insane, and a lot of fan service too for us. Real quickly, Stig, is that a Rune Crest system? I don't know.
No, it uses the D20.
Okay.
It's horror focused. So you'll have weapons and you have guns and stuff, but you also have improvised weapons in there that you'll see in the horror, in horror movies, like the fire poker or a crowbar or whatever you can grab when the zombie attacks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And a lot of the fan service, well, first of all, there's lots of really cute things. Like there's a church in the town, and Steve called it St. Teresa's Church. So I was happy with that. The Catholic Church, and then the priest is Father. He looks just like Father Ralph from the Thornbirds, and it's Richard Chamberlain. So that's a total '80s thing.
Yeah,
And
basically what that did was because for D&D I needed to find pictures of the characters and stuff, but with the Call of Cthulhu '80s game, I could just basically it's like I got to make kind of like a movie with unlimited, you know, casting funds because I could just take actors and put them in roles, right?
yeah, and then there's one character that I requested from Stig because there's an actor. He's still alive and he's still playing the same character on Days of Our Lives. He plays John Black, played by Drake Hoggeston, I think is how you say his last name. But John Black has just been a character I've been watching since the '80s, and so he is in the candy store, right? John is it? But he
Yeah,
called
yeah.
him
I think
John
you were like,
Gray.
you need to put this guy in the game, and I was like, okay. I have like 3 spots left, so okay, it has to be the guy who runs the candy store then. So there's
Yes,
like a soap opera actor looking guy in the candy store.
yeah.
Very much out of place, but there you go.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because there is a lot of fan service in this one because it's kind of important to us, and also the guy from Quantum Leap you have in there because he's also a dish. I forget what he is. Is he Bobby's
He,
Hobbies?
yeah,
No,
he's the hobby store.
Hmm.
yeah, Bobby's Hobbies. And there's from North and South the miniseries, the Civil War miniseries. There's a character named Elkanah Bent, and Steve he would say a line right before he died. He goes, "My empire, I got to save my empire," and so that's always been an ongoing joke among me and my family, and apparently Steve, that they used to say that my empire, I gotta save my empire. So we have a character who is a racist because Elkanah Bent was a racist, but he called him Elkanah Beauregard, and he has his baking goods pies and baking goods empire. Like the name of his bakery is his empire, and yes, he's racist.
Yeah, this
So
was actually a thing I wasn't sure if I should have racism in the game
mhm.
because on one side it makes it realistic,
Yeah,
right? And it's even realistic, in the Conan world, because there's a bunch of xenophobia and racism. Uh, but I also had Nina and Mara, who's half Arab, and Alora, who's a Native American, half Native American, half Asian, I think. So it's like, do I do this or not?
yeah,
But thankfully, they knew me well enough to know that yeah, it's the character speaking, not me. You know.
yeah,
So I went for the realism. You know, um, I I would have avoided using it if the players didn't want it. You know,
yeah.
but
Well,
but
and
but
if you,
I figured if it's
yeah,
there, it's there. You know,
yeah, and
so
there's also, sorry,
I, I didn't have it there to be edgy or anything like that. Because I think I've done this with all 3 games. I've asked you guys before the game starts, what kind of game do you want? What do you want in it? You know,
yeah,
is there something you don't want in there? So I don't, all of a sudden add something that offends the hell out of someone, right?
yeah, yeah,
So it's
and
I
yeah,
you know
well,
I think it's probably a good thing if the DM does that, so you don't all of a sudden have a game with stuff with a lot of stuff in it that none of the players like.
yeah, And for the most part, you also always ask us about the difficulty level that you want to play, and fan service. How much fan service we want?
Yeah, because it's like I said before. It's not about the DM telling a story. It's about allowing the players to feel like they're in the driver's seat as much as possible, and that's something I always actively try to do. So, if you guys do something or want to do something in the game, I'll allow it, and try to make something that'll make it happen, right?
Yeah. And actually, the only time anyone broke it, and I didn't even realize, was, in general, animals don't get hurt. And I wanted to sacrifice Mara's future pet. I didn't know that this animal was destined to be Mara's pet. So I wanted to throw the whistle puppy.
She was ready to Simba yeet it into this
yes,
huge sea beast.
I added that fucking animal just to cheer Mara up, because I don't know what it was, because I think you were maybe you were going through a rough time at the time. I don't know what it was, but I put it in there to cheer up Mara.
It was something, and then you sent me this picture, and you let me know, but you didn't let the other players know that you were creating this little future pet for me.
Yeah, and then Teresa immediately picks it up and is about to throw it to the monster in the lagoon.
So I'm the monster. Here's this pet that was supposed to, Mara's little gift from Stig to her. And the second I saw it, I was thinking, hey, maybe because I thought of Snakes on the Plane, where they threw the puppy at the snake to buy some time. So I was going to buy some time. So I grabbed it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
She said, I hold it up like Simba.
So I'm sitting there in front of my computer, eyes wide.
Yeah, you were like, I will shoot you. I will shoot you.
I was literally said, I will shoot you.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't know, but Mara was getting really, really adamant. So I was like, gee whiz, Mara's getting kind of hot. Hot meaning mad. And I was like, okay, fine, I won't do it. I'm like, dang, she's really. And then I found out that this was her special pet I was gonna kill.
Yes.
That's kind of almost like a Seinfeld episode. If someone gets really hot when they're angry, and everyone's constantly trying to piss them off to make the person look hot.
No, I meant hot. You know what I mean by hot.
I know. It just stuff pops into my head.
I know it does. Now I'm the monster. Yeah. So that was one of those not so great moments of mine. But yeah, because if you can imagine, like Simba.
Yeah, and if you had thrown it, I would have allowed it, because your character can throw it. So I would just go, roll attack.
It would have been just the irony that this is a huge sea creature, which throwing this tiny whistle puppy at it would not have registered at all.
It would have been like Jaws eating a peanut.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to save Nina, because Nina was out swimming or something, was going to get eaten by it. But yeah, that was, those were some moments that not one of my greatest moments, but the whistle puppy was fine. And, the only problem was Stig wanted it to be called Clemens, but Mara wanted Repacheep. But so it's
you can't put Repacheep in a Conan story. You're crossing franchises.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. Well, Clemens, that's like an old Roman name.
Yeah, I'm saying that's not exactly Conan either.
Yes, it is. At least 2 of the countries are based on ancient Rome.
Oh, fudge. From a certain point of view, but that's okay.
Yeah, Robert E. Howard is all over the place with historical accuracy, because you have an ancient Rome, you have an ancient Egypt, and you have it's all over the place, but it works,
Oh dear. Yeah, it does, and that's what makes it fun. Well, I'm glad y'all think it's funny. I nearly killed poor Mara.
Yeah.
But that's
the 80s horror game though will go faster than the Conan did, because with the Conan we had 4 players. Now there's 2.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as long, you know.
Yeah.
It's probably
so
going to
far-
be 3/5 of the Conan game, maybe.
Well,
Something
we'll
like
see.
that.
Sometimes we can go on detours.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so far, one of the funniest parts of this new game, besides when we were all shooting at each other to get the rabid raccoon, is there's a psychiatrist, because we have to go back to get sanity points, because you lose sanity points in this game, and by going to see a shrink, and the shrink is based off the one on Seinfeld.
Yeah, the lawyer.
Yeah, and he's just so random. It's like you need to take. You need to have Jesus take the wheel.
Yeah.
And do you have a Bible?
I think of
Do you
My
mind
Little
a Bible?
Pony, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, My Little Pony.
Yeah. Think of My Little Pony will make you happier. My Little Pony
Yeah.
and Rainbows.
But
Yeah.
and somehow it works on my character. I've gotten all my sanity back.
Yeah, it's Jackie, Gravy.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
with the raccoon, it was like you were describing an undead raccoon attack. It was just like, no fucking psychiatrist will believe that, even if it's true. And he was like, do you pay taxes? Oh, you do? Well, then you shouldn't have to experience an undead raccoon in your car, should you? This is America. It's not your fault.
Yeah, it's just so random, and so that cheers us up. And well, we've had a few things where Stig has been nice and just cheered us up, like never mind the situation, but someone needed some cheering up, and you had us have a day of games. This was in the Conan, where there were different competitions, and like I was in a cooking competition, and I forget what Mara was in.
Axe throwing.
Axe throwing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were some random fun side quests like that, and it's become a tradition that we have a Halloween episode. So
yeah, there was one time when one of the players had lost a relative, so I made sure there wasn't any killing in the game.
Yeah. And then what was it? We had a vampire Halloween one, we had a zombie one, and was it, or maybe only 2 Halloween ones? I'm trying to think.
I think it's only been 2, because there would have been one for the classic D&D, and then there was for the Conan D&D.
No, we had 2 for the Conan one. We didn't
2
have any for the classic D&D.
Okay, so I knew.
Okay, that
there were
was it.
2. All right,
Yeah, so that's when that started. Okay, yeah. So
that
that
we're
was
still playing Call of Cthulhu up around October, which I think we should probably still be playing. Then we'll likely have a Halloween.
yeah, and which is
Maybe a trip to Haddonfield.
Or Crystal Lake, one of the 2.
yeah, or
Yeah, and
even in
you know what?
Or the Stanley Hotel.
If I get a chance to have like Jason attack you or something, I'm going for the kill.
oh, for crying
Yeah,
out
yeah.
loud.
Fuck you, ladies. I'm killing you with Jason if I get the chance, and I'm doing it fucking brutally too.
Oh gosh. Well, I was about ready to say we already have some vampires that live in town. But
Yeah, that
we
was
don't,
for Mora.
Yeah.
From
Right now.
gosh, they're against us, Mara. Do it, Stig.
I find it funny that Trey's on your side, Stig. Meanwhile, you're going to turn him into a skateboarding midget in the game.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. That
Yeah,
we're gonna have a
He gave me
cameo.
lip the other day, so I'm like, I'm putting you in the game as a feral skateboarding midget.
Yes.
Okay, Archer, the Conan we played, it wasn't like D&D, but it was a D20.
Mhm.
Yeah. Basically the same rules, but it's set in the Conan world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if
to
you
be
play
honest, I like the Conan one better than D&D. I'm not sure if you guys agree, but I think it's more realistic and it's more fun.
Yeah. Well, I liked it a little more because at the same time I was reading the the Conan books. That was when I was discovering Robert E. Howard. So I knew the world a bit better. I think if I would go back, having read some Forgotten Realms and play D&D, I also might have a better experience. I mean, I had a great experience, but you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what novels actually did for D&D back in the day.
Hmm.
They've done away with it now, but back in the day, if you wanted to, if you were playing a D&D campaign set in, Waterdeep, which is a big city in the Forgotten Realms, you could read a book that took place in Waterdeep, and
Hmm.
you'd know what it was like.
Yeah. Well, and I think that if I were to ever play Dragonlance for the same reason,
Yeah.
or is that Dragonlance? I'm sorry.
Hmm? No,
No,
Dragonlance is set in the world of Kryn.
the world of Kryn. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, so, because I've read 6 of those books, and I've bought them all. It's just a matter of me reading them. Yeah. So,
Yeah, some of the settings that they've released D&D books for, role playing game books, I found it difficult to be a DM for some of them because there might be movies and books that deal with the main problem already, kind of like Star Wars, right?
mm. Oh,
I
I see
mean,
what you're saying. The plots
yeah,
of the books.
you don't get to blow up the Death Star. Someone else does that because it's in the
Mm-hmm.
history of Star Wars, right?
Hmm.
So it's like Luke, Han, and Leia did all the important stuff. So you have to make up something that's not necessarily threatening the galaxy. Which I did that a little because we played Star Wars before you joined, Teresa.
Hmm.
Mara was in it,
Mm-hmm.
so I had to come up with a brand new Star Wars story in a way, you know.
Yeah. Well, and that's understandable. I think wouldn't you have the same issue if you played the Lord of the Rings too, if I'm correct.
Oh yeah, that would be because the main threat is Sauron and the orcs, right?
Hmm.
So you'd have to come up with something else but it would still be like a secondary threat, really, you know,
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit with Dragonlance as well, because the heroes in the books deal with the main problem.
Yeah. Well, it's just, but I think that you can always find something interesting and exciting to do in it. Oh, well, okay. We're coming up on 2 hours, so I always like to, during these things, if anyone have any last words or anything maybe that you haven't said already, I want to start with Mara about any of the stuff that we've talked about.
No, really not that I can really think of anything. Might want to do this again to go more into the stories,
Hmm.
because periodically, well, at least what I do is whenever basically the Sunday when I stream after the D&D session, I always have this one time in D&D
Hmm.
for the chat. So
Well, we could
feel like
probably do a
maybe,
stream with just D&D stories.
yeah. So I'm saying maybe at some point down the road, maybe closer when we're closer to being done with the Call of Cthulhu game, or even a little bit more into it, we can just regale the chats with a bunch of the stories that we're going through, even back in the Conan and regular D&D campaigns. So
Okay. Well, for sure.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah. There's quite a few funny stories, I think.
yeah.
well,
Well,
now because we always generally end the Call of Cthulhu session with okay, we're fucking hungry. We gotta go to a restaurant.
yeah.
Yeah, that's because you go to restaurants in the game all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's evening, so it's
Could you
It- it-
describe the food? You can hear the stomach rumble in the background.
yeah.
I'm like, should I?
yeah. Well, it is interesting. You're right, because we always end the games about when we. You're right. We're ready to eat, but our characters, they're always running about. They're both single. They're professional people, and it just makes sense that they would always go to a restaurant. So,
Yeah, and one of them is kind of racist.
mhm.
Here's the thing, though. I didn't plan on it. I basically populated the place, and then I rolled the dice for some personality traits for the people who are, at that location or something.
Mhm.
And I had a black guy at the restaurant, and then Mara said, "We need an Italian restaurant or something." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll make that an Italian restaurant." But then I'm like, "It's a black guy doing he's making Italian food." So I'm like, "Okay." And then I was rolling for him, and I got the racism thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So we have a racist that's an African
yeah, a
American.
black racist making Italian food,
Mhm.
and he
Yeah.
has a racist name.
Yeah, but don't say it. Don't
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it, but
Okay. It's like,
the
darn it, I
name is
just got
actually
monetized.
the name of the restaurant is actually, it contains a slur towards Italians. So the
Mhm.
Italians in town hates him, and
Yeah.
he doesn't realize why. So he hates them back because he's basically if you piss him off, he'll hate your race. Not just you, the whole race. So at this point, he doesn't like anyone.
Yeah. So, and he had a run in with Elkanah Beauregard.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now we're like banned from that pie factory restaurants
For a week.
for a week. I'm like, what?
Yes. So no
Yeah.
bagels, no donuts, no eclairs,
Mm-hmm.
no pumpkin pie.
Oh, you're not banned from the Beauregard's place. You're banned from the Italian place.
No, we're banned. No,
No, we're banned from
Beauregard banned us
Beauregard's
for a
place.
Oh
week.
yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
Oh, I remembered.
Yeah. Because like we were like trying to diffuse the situation, and somehow we ended up getting banned. I'm like, okay.
Archer Collins is guessing. You're not too far off, but think Little Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in any case, we've got a lot of clueless people in town, and we've already got a nemesis. There's a cop who is kind of stupid.
Yeah, back in the 80s, the cop, in movies, they usually groped people's asses,
Mm-hmm.
So I implemented that.
Yes.
More, I said, they're all lesbians.
Yeah.
It's actually an 80s trait. I just
Mhm.
put it in there.
Yeah.
So
and
actually, there's been I think two or three people that have broke Mora's ass in the game now, and they all go, "Yeah, oh, you work out great,"
Yeah, pretty much.
and then they just ended with that.
It was two women.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. And and they're corrupt, and they
yeah,
don't.
it's just a thing. They grab her ass and check it out and go, "Oh, you work out great,"
Yes.
and then it's done. It doesn't go anywhere further than that.
No. Because
Yeah.
you had Penny Cash who groped my ass, but she like I was only bent over because I had to get a shot.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And then the second time I got my ass groped in the game, it was by the female cop, and she was supposed to be patting me down, and then just took both her hands and cut each cheek.
Yeah,
Gosh, you're right. That's not happened to me.
she cupped, lifted, and squeezed,
Yes.
and went, "You work out great."
Yeah.
And Mara was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to like,
Yeah, what do you say?
Again, like, what do you say in that situation? Because this is right after we had
It's
to deal with the raccoon and
Just
getting
go, "Thank
shot.
you." I don't know.
Thank you was the furthest from my mind at that point when I'm trying to like nurse a bullet wound
Oh gosh.
and I'm getting patted down.
Yeah. And I don't know if my car, because I shot the car the floor of the van. But oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the other thing. We have B.A. Baracus is the mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's gonna fix up my van. Um, gosh, and well, we've seen Indiana Jones. I was about ready to say that we had a
Yeah.
cameo. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we were at a museum, and it was a retired archaeologist, whatever that was there, and it was Henry Jones Jr. and and he did work in the line about this artifact that they had sold, and he said that he was upset that they did that because it belongs in a museum. So
Yeah.
that was a funny one, and I laughed quite hard at that because you know we don't
Oh yeah,
know.
Archer Collins. I think I used that pity the fool
Pitiful,
thing.
yeah. Pitiful shoots up my van.
And
Well, I'm the one who did it. I shot up my own van, but it was because there was a rabid undead raccoon. Because that's the other thing. We think it's a voodoo story. At first, I thought it was a vampire story, but apparently they're
Yeah. I was like,
animating dead bodies.
yeah. So I was gonna say that reeks of voodoo.
yeah, so far you basically what I did. I made 3 cases
Mm-hmm.
that you could choose to do or not to do. You don't have to. And then I'm gonna add a couple of more, and then there's gonna be like a main story thing, and then that's usually what I do early on. I give the players a little bit of agency. They can do whatever they want, in which order, but the options are there, right? So if they do basically, I make the early quests fairly, not necessarily easy, but not lethal, so that they'll get some level ups.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start fucking with them even more.
Pretty much.
Mhm. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, and Steve, do you have any? I guess last words is wrong. What? Anything
No,
maybe that you'd like to bring up that we haven't already?
no, it's like I said, it's important to have a good group. That's key.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, if you have someone who's just there to kill time and goof around, and the other people are taking it seriously, it'll fuck everything up. Or if you have a bunch of people who are there to play and have fun, and you have one player that takes it ultra seriously and wants to boss everyone around,
Mm-hmm.
self-appointed leader and what have you, not good either.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone needs to be on the same page as closely as possible. That's when you get, in my opinion, that's when it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And uh, I also try to make some house rules, for the games. And whenever I do that, it's always for the good of the game. If, like I said, common sense should count more than the rules. If there's because the rules don't cover every situation.
No.
Because the whoever designed it can't possibly think of every situation that could occur. So in those cases, you need to let common sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
common sense reign. Yeah.
The fun thing is though, when the players roll high, and it doesn't work because there's something they don't know about that I can't tell you, and then like, why the fuck does this work? I rolled high. Fuck you and blah blah blah, right? And I'm like, can't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because of that thing you didn't find or whatever.
Okay. Well, and I guess if there is one theme is, y'all just need to be having fun, and that's also a big part of it is. And part of the fun is once you have the ground rules down and you've got a good group, that respects each other, then you move forward, and it can be very rewarding. Like we said, we've been doing this for 3 years now. So
Yeah, basically what I did though, because a lot of people, I was seeing on Twitter, people were being upset about the lockdowns and what have you, and I figured, hey, asked if you want to play D&D once per week or something, just to so you don't go crazy,
Mhm.
you have some interaction, and So that was basically what I did. But then we just kept at it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and
and
yeah, so yeah,
hopefully we're going to continue for quite a while longer.
yeah, it's just a nice way to relax. Like it's the one thing that I arrange with my family. That's why, kind of important to me about the timing and all that is, I'm caregiving. And if there's one thing that my family works around, they know that how important this Sunday afternoon D&D thing is for me, because, when you're under a lot of stress and stuff, yeah, that's your time. That's what you're doing. So it's something that's very important to me, and I've really enjoyed it. And part of that, has been Stig, putting this together and writing it for us and giving us a good time. So I'm going to ask Mara where we can find you.
Well, you can find me multiple places. My main YouTube channel is Jade Shadow. Basically, the name is underneath my avatar. I also have a live YouTube channel, Jade Shadow Live, where I normally do a solo stream early Friday afternoons, but my subs will have to bear with me just a little bit longer because it's coming down to the finish line for my parents' kitchen renovations and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stream tomorrow. But we'll see. We'll see how fast I help my mom and my sister tomorrow afternoon. But that's I do have those two YouTube channels. I'm also on Twitch. I go by Jade Fire on Twitch. I don't stream there as much because of certain things that Twitch is doing right now that I don't agree with. So I primarily stream on Kick now for gaming, which is I go by Jade Shadow there, where I play the Spider-Man games. Currently, I'm playing the Miles Morales game just to get used to the character because I'm going to be getting at some point Spider-Man 2 in October. The Halo campaigns, I'm just about done with Halo 4.
They have the tentacle.
So we'll see, because I have the Warhammer Space Marine game. I have what else do I have that I want to play at some point? I'm going through the Batman Arkham games right now. I'm on Batman Arkham Origins. So I might be getting back into Destiny 2 at some point. Yeah, I play quite a bit. Yeah, so come check that out. Yeah, play the new King Kong game. Yeah, a game that's supposed to be for PS5 looks like it's like not even worthy of PS2 in terms of graphics.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and tonight on my channel will be the Barbie the movie discussion. With my nerdy home. Don't know how animated it's going to get as far as the discussion, but we're kind of on semi-opposite sides when it comes to I say semi means like we're probably going to agree more than we disagree, but I have a feeling that I hated it more than she did. So,
wow, that'll be an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Now you'll know what I feel like when I say I don't like Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, I don't care if really like. What do you like? Does that supposed to mean something to me?
I don't know. Does it?
No, it doesn't. Actually, I'm not really a fan of that movie either. So it's like, what?
Well, then I hate both of you. No, I love that movie, but that's okay.
Mean something?
He doesn't.
He's like trying to own me, and I'm like, okay, so
no, I wasn't trying to own.
Well, like the way you said it, I was like, okay, what reaction do you want from me?
You were whining about me not having normal emotional reactions to anything anyway. So what do you expect?
Oh no, she was not whining.
Yeah, well, no, I just point out how warped you are.
Yeah, I think Stig was more owning me because I actually got a bit triggered by that. So Stig, you can F off.
Hey, I liked Glory. Shut up.
Oh, that's true. You did like Glory. Okay.
Man,
yeah.
I
Glory
told him to watch White Heat, and he watched that. And
so, yeah, I do watch them. I should get an A for effort.
Yeah.
So I recommended Treasure of Sierra Madre last night for him to watch.
Yeah, which I actually already have. I just haven't seen it yet, but I have the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, cool. All right. Well,
I think I've watched close to 10 movies now that Maura told me to watch. So,
All About Eve was
and she watched Thrashing, I think.
Yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that movie.
Oh, that's
Well,
a terrible
it's
movie.
supposed to be
Yeah.
cheesy, but it's feel good, isn't it? It's like Karate Kid, but with skateboards.
Well,
Kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I didn't like it as much as Stig wanted me to either.
Yeah. Like if for me, if they had gotten rid of the whole stupid Romeo and Juliet side story and just left it to just two rival skateboarding gangs, I probably would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Trey tends to watch a lot of movies I tip him off about, and he reviews them too.
Yes.
He even watched Monster, I think. But I'll never recommend anything, well, except Monster, that I wouldn't watch myself. You know.
And Trey, I think you'll like. I mean, I'm not sure which one you're watching, either White Heat or Treasure Sierra Madre, but either one, I think you would like it because those are really good movies.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so Stig, where can we find you?
I don't know. I think next week Maura and I are doing the fun, the weird, and the
the good, the fun, and the weird, pretty much, where it's in place of Cringe Factory. So we're basically trying to add a bit more positivity in the week, whether it's good stuff, fun stuff, or just plain old weird shit. So
yeah, and Maura's saving drinking money on it.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
I watched the Barbie movie, so that went out the window.
Oh
Yeah.
dear. Okay. All right. Well, and you can find me here on Miss Martin Muses, where I talk about what makes me laugh, makes me cry, and all that stuff, and makes me sad. I do have hopefully a sweet rolls video that I'm hoping to get done because I am going to be making sweet rolls from Skyrim. Also, I have my recent ones, Close Encounters of the Soulfesh kind, if you want to know what's going on behind the aliens. Also, Catholic Explaining Sunday, Teresa Travels Tuesday, and maybe various musings throughout the day. Pub Crawl next week's going to be with Magitech Mags and Mark with a C. So please stay tuned at the channel where we will be resuming night 2 of Pub Crawl.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Trey Courtney, Gravy D, all of everyone that's been in here today. Jacob, if I missed anyone, it's not intentional. Archer Collins, everyone that has come in today. The chat has always been amazing, and I hope that maybe you've learned a lot about Dungeons and Dragons and other D20 games. So thank you for your kind words. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, and be certain to never play the 5th edition.